Guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm gonna be posting a video in between my vlogs. I'm trying not to overload myself with like how often I put videos out, and so at the moment, kind of expect fortnightly, sort of like twice a month videos, and then anything else that kind of twigs my interest, I will put out in between those. Getting back into the swing of making videos, I've got my reading mojo back, it feels like, so just sort of like slowly putting myself back out there and seeing how it goes. And I was thinking to myself, like, well, is there any particular video I want to make? I've got a couple of ideas for one. For one I really want to do. It's going to be a very small recommendation list, and it's going to be called recommending books with murderous intent. But I still need to read one of the books before I decide whether I'm going to recommend it or not. So that's on pause for the time being. And I was like, oh, do you know what? I haven't done a tag in so long, and I like doing tags. And I've noticed like they seem to be in the middle of like a comeback a little bit. It's like I feel like no, I saw no one making any tag videos for quite a while, and I feel like I've seen quite a few recently. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do a tag video. So the tag I have chosen to do, it's the book recommendation tag. This is completely unprepared. I do not have a stack of books beside me. So if there is really clunky editing in this one, it is because I am literally snipping out long, awkward pauses as I try to decide and find a book. If you see me looking over here a lot, it's because these are where my bookshelves are. And I'm literally staring at them, hoping for inspiration. When you see me down here, it's because I'm looking at my laptop and I've got the questions in front of me. Barring sort of like the first two questions, I have not read these. Like, I've seen someone else's video on this, but I can't remember what they all are. I have not prepared any answers, so we're just gonna see what happens. The tag is originally by Steph Boner, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not 100% certain, so I will tag that down below. Shall we just get into it, yeah? Okay, so the first question is, a book you tell people is your favourite. So I tell people that this author is my favourite because she is. So for this one, I'm going to go with basically anything written by Robin Hobb. But if I have to give us just one book, I'm going to go with Assassin's Apprentice because that's the book that started it all. Now, I don't just tell people it's my favourite. Like, The Realm of the Elderlings is my favourite. Rob is peak writing for me, so yeah. The next question is, a book that is your guilty pleasure. I'm going to cop out of this one and say I don't have a guilty pleasure read. There's like, I'm kind of looking at my shelves and going, there's nothing that really sticks out as like, oh, that's, yeah, I don't see the point in being guilty for reading something. I don't see the point in being embarrassed that I enjoy reading anything. I mean, I could say something like Love Hypothesis because it's so cheesy, but no, fuck it, I'm gonna own it. I loved The Love Hypothesis. It was cheesy and terrible and just awesome. I could say something like Nalini Singh because it's it's maybe because it's a bit more on the spicy side, and no, fuck it, I'm a grown-ass woman. I can read something on the spicy side. Yeah, I don't have any guilty pleasure reads. If I enjoy it, I enjoy it, and if I don't, I'm not reading it. That's all there is to it. Okay, the third question is a book everyone loved but you didn't. So I have opened up my story graph just in case. So I'm just going to have a look and see what I've DNF'd. Since I started recording... Oh, no, all time. Since I started recording on Storygraph, and I'll see if anything sort of like jumps out. Oh, interestingly, on average, I DNF a book a month. Which is, I'm going to take that as really good progress because I used to never DNF books. I used to be adamant about not doing that. Will you tell me what the books are? Okay, yeah, I've got one. A book that apparently everyone's loved. I've only heard praise for it. If anyone watching this has read it and was like, yeah, no, I can understand where you're coming from, maybe, please let me know, because I only hear praise for this author. And that is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I really didn't get on. It felt so preachy. Like, I really enjoyed House in the Cerulean Sea. I came close to DNFing it to begin with, but the children really, like the characters of the children, they really saved the book for me. And I feel like Under the Whispering Door doesn't have any saving graces. It doesn't have any saving points. I was bored. I felt preached at. Like, I get it, he has a moral to tell, there's a point to his books, but can you tell it without ramming it down my throat, please? There, I said it. Not the biggest TJ Clinton fan, apparently. So, we'll move on very quickly. So the first question is, a book you read the fastest. So this is actually a very easy one. I read the entire trilogy in the space of 2 days. I was still in high school. You know, I had a lot of time on my hands. It was the summer holidays, you know, I didn't have homework or anything. I lived in the middle of the country, right? I was a proper country bumpkin. It was a good half an hour walk to sort of like the main road to catch a bus into town. So, excuse me. I had a lot of spare time, a lot of reading time. So the book that I read the fastest, it's a trilogy, and that's the Black Magician trilogy by Trudy Canavan. I started the Magician's Guild on the Saturday morning. Got so engrossed in it, Mum had to sort of like come and drag me out of my room to come and have dinner, you know, remind me to eat and drink. And I finished The High Lord on Sunday evening. It was, as honestly, I think it's like one of my favorite childhood memories. Just your teenage years count as, not childhood memories, it's one of my favorite teenage years memories. Yeah, just sitting alone in my room reading. I think Black Magician trilogy was one of the first trilogies that I was the first in my family to read. So it felt like it's my trilogy. Those are my books. Previously it's sort of like everything I'd read, my parents had read and had recommended to me. So this was one of the first series that I picked up for myself. It was, yeah, like I've read it so many times since, and I just so much fun memories of it. So yeah, moving on. A book that deserves more hype. That's another really easy one. That is The Imaginary Corpse by Tyler Hayes. I have done a video on why you should read it. I will link it somewhere up above, down in the description. I'll figure that out. The Imaginary Corpse follows, it's the premise of what happens to imaginary friends and ideas and concepts when they're no longer needed, often for quite tragic, heart-wrenching reasons. Where do they go? They go to this little corner that's the back, right over at the back in the corner of the imagination. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but they have they basically got their own little world where they can be and interact with all the other imaginary friends and ideas that are no longer required in the real world. The idea is that they can't die when they're there. You know, they can die and then they get revived and they come back and all is good. But there's something going about that is killing them for good. Like these friends, as they're known, are not coming back. They're being hurt terribly and not coming back from it. So our protagonist is Tippy, who is a sunshine yellow Triceratops plushie detective who has an ice cream addiction and relaxes by popping himself in the tumble dryer. This book is cute, it is fluffy, it's dark, it's heart-wrenching, it's everything. The world building is incredible, it's vast, and yeah, I cannot praise it enough. I have lent it to several friends to make them read it. They have all enjoyed it, and I don't understand why Tyler Hayes has not made more of a fuss, has not been made more of a fuss about than he is. And I need everyone else to go out and buy a copy of this book so that he can get another book deal so we can write more of from this world, because I need more Tippy. That's all. Moving on. 6. A book that is becoming a movie or a TV show. Okay. I've not heard too many people talking about it, but I know it's happening. I think it might have recently had like a proper official announcement, but anyway. Project Hail Mary is getting made into a movie. I really want to say Ryan Reynolds, but I'm terrified it might be Ryan Gosling. I'm terrified about how they're going to do one of the characters. If you've read Project Hail Mary, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Jazz hands. I will go and watch it. I will be one of the first in the theatre to watch it because I absolutely adore Project Hail Mary. I think it was my favourite book of 2021. I have reread it twice since. I can't praise it enough. It deserves all the hype and adoration it gets. And yeah, I am excited for the movie and I really, really hope they do a good job with it. They did a good job with The Martians, so there's hope. But if they make a certain character genuinely scary, I'm gonna. Yeah. There's a certain character who should be startling the first time you see him, but as you get used to him, you're like, nah, I freaking love this character because, I would die for this character. I'm terrified about what they're how. I'm terrified how. I know we have the technology and the special effects to make it happen really, really well. I just really hope that they do okay with it. Yeah. So the next question, a book you have reread the most. Oh, how do I feel about using the same answer? Yeah, so I'm going to name 2 books, and I've already mentioned both of them, so this will tell you something about how much I love both of these books. So Assassin's Apprentice, I read it at least every couple of years. I'm currently 33. I first read Assassin's Apprentice when I really want to say I was 14, and I'm reading it every 2 or 3 years. So you do the math. You're probably smarter than I am. And similar with the Black Magician trilogy. I reread it at least every 4 or so years. I've actually recently had to replace my copies because they were falling apart because they've been read so much. Admittedly, they've been read by me, most of my family, like both my parents. Trying to encourage my brother to read it because I really think he'll enjoy it. I gave him my old falling apart copies, so if anything happens, it's not the end of the world. And yeah, I reread them so much I've had to replace them. Next one, a book from a genre you don't typically read. So my typical genres right now would be fantasy, romance, and anything in between. Fantasy, romance, contemporary romance. I'm reading a bit more sci-fi, but a book that from a genre I wouldn't typically read is like I definitely wouldn't typically like I don't gravitate towards thrillers. But recently I've read 2. Can I give you 2 answers? I'm going to give you 2 books. So the first one is How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. This was just a really fun read. Giving you that. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, not going to say too much about it because I'm going to give you guys both of these books in a recommendation video later when I finally get around to it. But it is about a woman going around killing men and getting away with it. It's not the most realistic of books, but it's quite funny. And it's such a good escapist read. And the next one, it's Murder Your Employer. Apparently I have a thing for, right now, I definitely have a thing for books with murderers as the protagonists. There's a reason I see the word assassin in fantasy and I'm like, ooh, I'll pick that up. But Murder Your Employer is basically a book where people go to learn how to... It's a book where people go to this sort of like academy. They're all adults. And they go to this sort of like academy, to the school, to earn a degree in deleting people. Again, I'm potentially going to do an individual book review for this one because I enjoyed it so much, and it's definitely going to be part of a recommendation list. So stay tuned at some point this year. That's all. That's what I'm giving you. I'm not giving you a time frame beyond this year, but stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's all I got to say for that one. So moving on, a book that deserves all the hype it gets. Let's find a book I've not mentioned already. uh, hmm. Okay, a book that deserves all the hype it gets. It's a book. It's been out for a little while, but it has recently been getting a lot more hype, and I've seen a few more people. So it's maybe not. It's not the most hyped up book, but I've definitely been seeing more and more people pick it up, and that is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. It's set in a sort of alternate history, alternate universe, or it's set in another world, but it's very heavily inspired by sort of like Victorian Britain. And it follows Lady Trent. It is the first book in the diaries, the memoirs of Lady Trent, who is a natural historian who just happens to focus on dragons because dragons exist in this world. And the first book is her going on sort of like an adventure, an expedition to study dragons. They're witty, they are so well written, the characters are amazing. Yeah, I can't. These are a really high recommendation for me. Given that this is a recommendation book tag, I'm pretty much recommending all of these books naturally. But yeah, if you want sort of a fantasy with dragons that's not super heavy, they're quite like easy reads. They will really drag you in, they'll really engross you. And they're not massive tomes. I think they're maybe 3 to 400 pages long. They are, you know, kind of small for fantasy books, which in itself is really nice. They're narrated by Kate Redding, who I think is one of the Wheel of Time narrators, but I've not listened to them, so I'm not. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100%. But I will say that she gets the voice of Lady Trent down just perfectly. So yeah, that's that one. Where did we get to? Book deserve. Okay. A book you usually recommend when asked to give your recommendation. Oh, see, that's a really hard one because if someone asks me to recommend them a book, I will kind of narrow down, be like, well, I don't have any particular go-to books that are this book one size fits all kind of book. So I would always try to figure out sort of like what they're going for, like what's your thing, you know? Do you prefer something more on the romance side? Do you want something more on the fantasy side? Do you want to try branch out and try a bit of sci-fi? And I will, to the best of my abilities, tailor and personalize my recommendations. So I actually can't answer that one unless I know something more specific. I don't have any single go-to book. Although The Imaginary Corpse, you know, because it deserves more hype. It definitely deserves more hype. So yeah, let's go with it. The Imaginary Corpse. Apparently I'm all about reusing answers in this one. Okay. A book that has your favourite characters. How are you supposed to choose that? How am I supposed to... I did not know about... I forgot about that question. How are you supposed to narrow that down? How am I supposed to narrow that down? Okay. So realistically, that's like most of the books I read because I'm a character-driven person and I fall in love with characters all the time. But I'm gonna go with the live ship traders. There is a ship called Paragon who I absolutely fell in love with. The ship Paragon, like hands down. I mean, the live ship traders in this Robin Hobb made ships characters. The ships themselves were individual, realistic, like realized characters. That's not too much of a spoiler. They are called the live ships, the ships that are alive. So yeah, a book that has my favorite character. I'm gonna go with Paragon, the live ship traders by Robin Hobb. But that was a really hard question, guys. That was not a fun question. No, don't be. Don't make me choose next time. It's really hard. Oh, okay. A book you wish you could live in. Ooh. I read a fair amount of fantasy. Not sure I want to live in any of those worlds. They tend to be dangerous. Okay. Continuing on the theme of reusing answers, I'm gonna go with the imaginary corpse just because the world building in that was vast and varied, and I mean your ideal world exists within. I can't remember. I don't have my copy. Another friend has my copy, so I can't remember what exactly it's called. It's the under something. But yeah, anyway, whatever it's called. I'm gonna pick there. You know, I can have at the end of a tough day, I can go to the ice cream parlor and have, you know, bowl after bowl of ice cream with Tippy, and then I can go home and toss myself in a tumble dryer to relax. It'll be fine. A book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. Okay, this is a really easy one, and I can even show you the books. It's sitting right here. This is one I started reading. This one I ended up temporarily abandoning a couple of other books to read this one because I picked it up going, you know what, I'm just going to read the first chapter or two just to confirm that this is going to be terrible, and I read it in 2 sittings. It was so good. This book basically took everything that annoyed me about Twilight and fixed it. The 100-year-old vampire has a genuine excuse and reason for being in high school and is hating the fact that she's in high school again. But that is The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling. Yeah, this is a really fun, really quick, easy read. Totally recommend it. Yeah, there was so much more to it than I was expecting. I kind of, like, between the cover and the blurb on the back, I was like, this is just gonna be, it's a high school romance. It's a vampire high school romance. Like, I'm not here for that right now. You know, I don't need another Twilight. That sounds so much better. So much better. Like, if, like me, you wanted so much more from Twilight and it just disappointed, like, yeah. Pick that one up. So we're now on question 14. And that is a book that made you cry. So, handily enough, I also have another book here. I'm away to start my reread of A Man Called Uwe. However you pronounce it. I apologise to any Swedes watching this. I'm actually going to be co-hosting the Recreate book club at Ashley's Media Addiction. Ashley at Ashley's Media Addiction runs, so I'll also tag that. I'll also link that down below. But the June book is A Man Called Uwe. It's recently been made. So it has a film. It has 2 films now. The first one is a Swedish adaptation. It was out a few years ago that I've not watched. But we've had the recent Hollywood remake with Tom Hanks in it called A Man Called Otto. Because, you know, Americans are too dumb for Uwe. I've not seen either. I'm kind of terrified at watching them because I love this book so much. The end of the book took me so long to read because I was sobbing. You know, quite often when we say, oh, this book made me cry, we're often what we actually mean is, oh, it made me tear up a little bit. No, I was like full tear streaming, snotty nose. Like, if someone had answered the door, they genuinely think there was something wrong. If someone had been at my door, they would genuinely have thought something was wrong with me. This book, Frederick Backman just writes really, really good characters. So if you are a character-driven reader, you are going to enjoy Frederick Backman's writing, because he writes real characters. All the characters in this book, you can look along your street and go, I know these characters. Like, I know these people. And yeah, he properly got to my heartstrings, and I was a sobbing mess. So yeah, I'm away to start rereading this, probably tonight or tomorrow. Let's see how much it makes me cry this time. And then finally, the last question rather, is a book you wish you could read for the first time. I'm guessing that's a book I wish I could read for the first time again. Oh, for the first time again. Oh. So you'd expect me to say Robin Hobb here, but I like I really enjoy my rereads because I take away something slightly different every time, especially as I've grown older. Um oh, a book I could reread for the first time. What do I want to reread? I think that like there could be so many of the books. Um and I want to say something different other than like the same three answers I've been using for everything in here. Uh, I've already used you. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one just because my eyes keep getting drawn back to it. I first read this one. Get back in there. Oh, I was definitely still a teenager. I want to say I would have been about 15. No, no, I think I would be younger. I would probably 13, 14 when I first read this. And I have read it a few times since. That is Witch Child by Celia Rees. I I absolutely adored this book. I loved this. This is one of the first historical fictions that I properly fell in love with. Um, so I think I read this sort of like a little bit before I really started to get into fantasy, and oh, it was just so wonderful. Some of the scenes we came across, like, still stick in my mind. I would love to go, just to have that ability to go back and feel the impact of those again. Because on rereading, I can tense myself and I can prepare myself for some things that I know are imminent. But the first time you read these and you don't realize that's, oh my gosh, we're going there. Oh, that's happened. It's, yeah. Witch Child by Celia Rees. I would go back and reread that. I'll put you back in proper order later. But yeah, anyway, that has been the recommendation book tag. I'm saying it like half an hour or so I'll hopefully cut out some of my longer pauses. So I've actually not taken nearly as long to do this as I thought I would. I guess it pays to be not over. It pays not to be over prepared. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I am. I can feel myself starting to ramble, and I can feel my words starting to get tongue tied and mixed up. So we're definitely going to end it here. Do you know what's really nice about this tag is it doesn't tell or order me to tag anyone else in it. This is very much one of those tags that's like, do it when and if you fancy, no pressure whatsoever. So if I have inspired you to do your own version of this tag, I am very excited to hear what your recommendations are. If you want to leave some of your own recommendations down in the comments, absolutely feel free to. I cannot promise I will read them anytime soon, because we all know as soon as I'm like, oh, I've got to read this, I won't. But I definitely want to hear what your recommendations are. I am always looking for some inspiration. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.